Hello everyone, you are watching Banished by Nightmares and I'm your host Anas Ahmad. Today we are going to listen one of the paranormal, not one but one of the good ones. Um, a lot of stories I got from Reddit, so let's just dive into it directly without any wasting time. So let's do it. One time, when I was home at night by myself, I saw something move out of the corner of my eye. I looked over and the bottom of one half of my scarf that I had draped over the top of my bathroom door was suspended at a 20-degree angle, including the tassels in midair. At this point, so many things were happening in my apartment, including physical welts down my back, that I was terrified to be in it. I ended up getting dressed and going outside the building before I broke down crying and called my grandma to pick me up. A different time, me and my friend were outside the building smoking and we heard what sounded like someone thrashing my apartment. I'm talking chairs being smashed into the walls, shelves being tipped over. I was the only person who lived in the building at the time. We raced upstairs to catch whoever it was, but not a single thing was moved in my apartment. All the other units were locked. I checked. I never saw a ghost, apparition, shadow, or whatever. When we first moved in, everyone hated coming into our building. They said it felt off. My ex and I never felt that way at first and thought everyone was exaggerating. By the time I moved, I wouldn't speak about ghosts or watch anything remotely paranormal in my apartment. Eventually, I watched the paranormal activity at my friend's and cannot describe the chill I felt. Similar things were happening in my home. Haven't experienced anything like it since I moved from there. Story number 2. Okay, so when I was in high school, my parents worked shift work at a hospital, and occasionally that would mean I would be left at home alone at night with my dog. On this particular night, it was around 10 p.m. My dad had left for work in the afternoon and my mom was getting ready to leave. So I was going to be alone for a few hours until he came home. My mom was getting ready to leave through the front door when she noticed there was a small pile of shirts on the floor near the stairs to the second floor. My dog liked to lie down on them. She said, "Make sure you put these in the laundry hamper," which was upstairs in their bedroom. I said, "Sure," bent down to, pick them up and threw them upstairs. They landed in the upstairs hallway. So I could pick it up from there when I went upstairs. I turned around and my mom was saying bye to our dog and giving him a few back rubs before she left. I waved at my mom as she closed the door. Then called my dog, "Come upstairs," as I get ready for bed. We walked up the stairs together. And when I got to the top, I noticed that the laundry wasn't in the hallway. I checked my bedroom, which was right next to the where I thought I had thrown them, but it wasn't there. I walked down the rest of the upstairs hallway and into my parents' room, and there was the laundry sitting in the middle of the floor. With layout of my parents' house, there is literally no way my throw could have landed as far and it to their bedroom perpendicular to the direction I threw it. and neither me or my dog had touched them after I threw them up. I got serious goosebumps when I saw that, and then reached down to pick up the pile of clothes. When I picked it off the floor, I noticed that underneath the pile was a burn mark on the carpet, slightly larger than a quarter, as if something hot had settled there and made an indent. There was no smoke or smell and looked like it had been there for a long time. I never saw that burn mark before, and I used to go in there every day to put my own clothes in the hamper. I quickly got ready for bed and tried to go to sleep and not to think about it. What just happened? Still don't have any explanation to that, and I think about it every so often. I think the mark it left. I've heard these energies have high temperatures, and they're made with fire. So when these things happen, sometimes they leave their mark, and maybe that's the case. So let's move on. I went with my best friend during high school for summer vacation to his grandparents who live in countryside in Japan. I stayed in his mom's old room, which was a small wall closet. Just above this closet was a smaller closet door, like a foot and a half tall and about 3 feet wide, just above it. Weird design, but their house is old. The first couple weeks, I was pretty jet lagged, and Japan is hot and humid, so I didn't really sleep at night. If my light was off at night, though, I always felt uneasy about that small closet space. Something about it just felt darker than just something about it just felt darker than the rest of the room. Toward the end of the second week, I started to adjust to the time difference. One morning, I woke up and that small door was open. It was unsettling, but I closed it and just thought maybe it wasn't closed all the way and came loose. A couple nights later, I woke up feeling uneasy. It was dark and I cannot see properly, but I could see some things. And I could see that a small door was open. It was much darker than the rest of the room, like black, pitch dark. This was the first and only time I feel and I experienced paralysis. I was too scared to move, say, or do anything. I just felt this darkness coming from there. I don't remember sleeping that night, but I must have, because I remember waking up to the next morning. I told my friend about it, who said his mom told him about something like that. When we got back home and I talked to his parents, his mom kind of joked with, "So I heard you met the ghost." That's creepy. Sometimes when I'm alone in my home, it does feel something is there, and this is also called the fear of unknown. But sometimes things happens. I'll share my stories as well, but it's not very interesting, but it's you know bizarre. So let's move on to another one. My brother was on the phone once with his GF when she started saying that she could hear some old lady asking my brother for a glass of water. There was nobody around him, so he ignored it, but she kept on insisting. He hung up the phone and went to check on our grandma, who was in her bedroom, and found her dead. Fast forward a couple of years. Around 11 p.m., I was on the phone with a girl when I saw a guy on bicycle go past. Phone was by one of the windows. Same spot as my brother. That's when I noticed she stopped talking and asked her if she was still there. She apologized as she thought I got into trouble. I said no, and asked why she said that, and she replied, with someone was telling me to stop talking on the phone. It's late, go to bed. I was on my phone, everybody in the house was already asleep. I asked her if it was an old lady, and she said yes. Told her it's my grandma, and that's the same thing happened to my brother a few years ago. She started talking about ghosts and stuff, so I told her I'm hanging up and bolted into my room. She's saving you, bro. So let's moving on to another one. My parents had flown to Houston when I was 11 years old to see a specialist for my dad's lymphoma. It had just returned from remission, and but there was no reason to think he was in any imminent danger. I was riding my bike home the day they were to fly back and stopped my bike in this ditch that we used to ride up on our way back. When I got to the top, I felt a wave of emotion come over to me. And it was a feeling, and without even knowing what I was saying, I told my friend I was riding with that my dad had just died. Like while I was riding my bike, I just told my friend that my dad had just died. It's weird. My friend was like, what? I just knew. I rode the rest of the way home to find my grandparents, my dad's parent, bowling on our back porch. I stood there watching them in the doorway for a few minutes, unable to walk out to talk to them. I had died in an hour before I got home from school. No phone calls to the school, nor did I interact with anyone that knew prior to riding this in the ditch. I just knew when what wave came over me. Again, there was no reason to think that he was even remotely close to passing. He had caught pneumonia while in Houston and died from that. May his soul rest in peace. That's sad and that's very touching. Sometimes these stories make me not feel good. Well, let's move on to another one. When I was 6, I slept on the bunk bed in a room alone. The bottom bunk was empty. It was meant for my young brother, but he was too scared of sleeping in the bed alone. So I was alone in that room that night. I remember a chilling feeling that night then, and suddenly got really warm, probably because I was undergoing a night terror of some sort. Then I start breathing heavily and open my eyes and see the room is empty. My little nightlight in the corner of the room comforts me back to the sleep. Except as I closed my eyes, I felt heavy hand patting my shoulder. My eyes ripped open and there was no one in the room. As soon I lay back down and the patting continued and I covered my head. just pretending to myself that it was my mom. It took me 12 years to stop sleeping with my head under the cover because of that memory. My mom, of course, knew a woman passed away in that apartment before we moved in. So she always believed it was that woman trying to comfort me. Good stories, huh? Late night. One late night on weekend, my parents were out at a party, so it was my sister and I were home, just me and her. I heard my parents come home, so just like a kid, I instantly shut off all my video games and pretended to be asleep. As a kid, I always went to the bed with a little lamp on. I hopped in the bed and pretended to be asleep when I heard someone enter my bedroom and head for the light on my dresser. Their back was to me, and I saw they were reaching for my lamp to turn it off. Just as I had thought, they turned around and looked directly at me, stared for felt like forever. I couldn't see much of a detail. I was peeking through my closed eyes as discreetly as I could, other than a large, old-timey looking brown dress like Victorian era women look like an old woman, where their eyes were very dark and I couldn't make out of any details. I just saw them smile at me and then shut the light off before I fell asleep. The next morning at breakfast, my parents said that they were surprised that I fell asleep with the lights off since normally I left it on. I asked everybody in the house if they did it and no luck. I have no idea how to explain it to this day. What's even more bizarre is recently I found a picture of my great-grandmother who died of old age some 40 years before I was born. She was wearing a dark Victorian style dress in the image. I think she was saying hi to you because you have never met her. So let's move on. So, a few months before I arrived in Japan to teach at a school, the third year homeroom. The third year homeroom teacher unfortunately died in a drunk driving accident. I never met him and only saw his face once in the school. School group photo that was taken at the beginning of the year. Fast forward to the graduation ceremony. I am sitting with the other teachers in front of the auditorium and I see someone standing in the back near the door. It's a tiny town of 3,000 people, so I pretty much knew everyone there. I accept that guy who was standing there. He just looked like that teacher from what I vaguely remembered from that photo. I was a bit weirded out, but figured I was imagining things and just focused on the rest of the ceremony. Afterwards, during the staff debrief meeting, the principal goes, "By the way, did anyone else see Mr. M standing in the back? So glad he came to see his students off." He's proud. Hello, so next one is, one time I woke up in the middle of the night and I checked my phone to see the time, and then I was about to lay down and closed my eyes. I checked in front of me. A huge, tall, humanoid shadow figure was standing there, blocking the view of my broken wall clock. I just started panicking, and I was nowhere in the position to, take off my eyes off it, but it was still there. It felt like forever. But eventually, it just disappeared after I look away from it for a second. He's saying hi. I live with you. I'm a roommate. I'm just putting this a serious video. This is the last story. So let's see, what do we have here. My family and I used to stay in a very affordable beach cottage in the Outer Bank, NC, for a few weeks each summer. It was a converted life-saving station with a lookout tower and everything. I was just a kid, 13 or 14, when we first started staying there. I used to walk around and talk to the local kids. They were shocked that I was staying there. I didn't believe them because kids are gonna be kids, and I figured they were just trying to scare me. I was wrong. The first few nights were quiet, but every night after that, something happened. My aunt claimed that her bed raised off the floor and shook violently, knocking her to the floor. She slept in the car for the remainder of our vacation. I am a bratty kid and just figured she was drunk. I stayed upstairs in the room where they used to keep rescued and dying sailors. I woke up one morning to such loud banging in my room. I was terrified. Nobody was there. One of the beds had overturned while I was sleeping. One of the beds had overturned while I was sleeping. The next night, I woke up to the more banging and loud laughter from the tower. I figured it was my sister on the phone, but nobody was there. As the days went on, I felt like somebody was watching me anytime I showered or used upstairs bathroom. The banging in the tower was nightly at this point, and I was absolutely terrified. One morning, I had slept in, being a teenager at all, and woke up to my relatives trying to get into the house. After a morning at the beach, every single door in the entire house was deadlocked from the inside. Very odd. We spent few summers there. Each time the same experience. Something always happened there. Eventually, the house washed away during the hurricane, leaving only the tower behind on the beach. It's a shame because I would love to stay there as an adult and see. Yeah, man. And it's a shame that obviously it's a historic place. I think that's for better. Well, this is it. I almost told you around 10 stories, very interesting stories, and some of them related to death and coming back from the dead. The father one and the grandmother one was very sad. So, my warm hugs for them. But please keep sending me new stories related to paranormal, or maybe you think supernatural or related to black magic or something that has occur to you and you feel like it's paranormal or something that is living with you. Until then, I'll see you in the next one. And this is my first video, so please thumbs up and subscribe my channel, because I'm trying to start this new series that will show my face and I'm storytelling. rather than just going behind the